The guardrail is supposed to save lives, not destroy them.
A father of an injured child calls for a controversial guardrail to be removed, a guardrail that lines the roads that you and your family drive every day.
Contact 5 investigator Shannon Cake with the exclusive investigation tonight into how a change in one guardrail's design could be impacting your safety.
What you're watching is a series of crash tests for guardrails. Those metal beams running along so many Florida roadways are supposed to save lives. But if they're installed or made improperly, some believe they could also kill you.
The point of impact will be right here on the head.
So the car hits the end.
Yep.
And the steel beam is supposed to roll up like a tin can.
Like a tin can. Absolutely.
And go away from the vehicle.
Go away from the vehicle.
Dave Ritchie is one of the biggest guardrail installers in the country.
How often do those pierce into the cabin of a vehicle?
I've never seen it happen in my 20 years.
Is it supposed to do that?
Into the cab of a vehicle?
Should it pierce into the cabin of a vehicle?
Never.
Through your car?
Definitely not.
Howard Webb is a 30-year veteran at Florida's Department of Transportation and can't remember a guardrail penetrating a car. But he and Ritchie admit they never heard about this, or this, or this. In 2010, a guardrail punctured the floorboard of this truck near Lakeland, Florida.
This is razor sharp.
The guardrail sliced through the 18-year-old passenger's leg.
Okay. The guy went right through the guardrail, and it went right through the middle of his car.
Last year in Ohio, this car was pierced by a metal beam.
Trapped inside the car. Actually, I think she's impaled.
And in 2008, a mother in Tennessee died when a guardrail cut straight through the front of her SUV. All of the crashes involve the same kind of guardrail, manufactured by Trinity Industries. The company made about a 1-inch change, shortening this, the feeder chute. Some engineers believe that is causing the beams to behave like spears instead of collapsing properly.
When I started hearing these reports and hearing what happened to these families, and then realizing that the same thing happened to myself and my family with our vehicle, I had no words. I was blown away. I was horrified.
Florida native Luke Robinson now lives in a tiny town called Corning, tucked in the hills of New York's southern tier.
How tall are you, man?
He and his wife Brittany, along with his boys Sean, Brent, and little Ethan, moved here 2 years ago.
Driving like a big man.
It was on the trip north
Womp womp.
when Luke careened into a guardrail.
The car stops. You look up.
Seeing my children and seeing my youngest pinned in his seatbelt upside down and not being able to get to him or help him.
What was he saying?
Screaming. He wasn't saying anything. He was just screaming. He was in a lot of pain.
Photos show the guardrail punctured through the wheel well of the back right tire, pushing inside the cabin through the back seat. Luke says 3-year-old Ethan was still in his car seat, pinned by the guardrail.
It's the most helpless I've ever felt and the most terrified I've ever seen my children.
Ethan is now 5. Luke and Brittany say he's lucky to be running, playing, living.
His pelvic bone was cracked in 2 places. He couldn't walk on his own or stand up, and they were very worried about internal damage in his head. He was just in very bad shape. He came very close to never ever walking properly again. Ever.
Something had to go awry. This is not a normal failure or the way a guardrail is supposed to function.
Palm Beach County Attorney Ted Leopold is representing victims in 2 lawsuits against Trinity Industries.
What is out on the roadway is defective.
How widespread is this?
On a grand scale, it's massive.
In fact, you'll find Trinity's guardrail systems all around the world. Here in downtown West Palm Beach at the intersection of Australian Avenue and Okeechobee Boulevard, we've counted 7 of them just right here. And these are those newer model guardrail heads with the shortened feeder chute. And you, the taxpayers, have paid for every single one of these.
You paid for them because Trinity Industries didn't tell Florida engineers or the Federal Highway Administration when that 1-inch change was made. In this letter, Florida transportation officials specifically asked Trinity whether any unauthorized changes had been made to its product. Trinity's response? There have been no major design changes. This is Trinity Vice President Brian Smith being deposed, trying to explain why no one knew about the changes until 7 years later. When the feds found out about the changes, Federal Highway Administration officials drafted this letter to Trinity questioning the number of highway crashes with fatal injuries. But the Contact 5 investigators learned that letter was never sent, and after meeting with Trinity executives, the feds approved the guardrails without any further testing.
We think that there is a very large cover-up when you have 80 to 90% of the marketplace worldwide and you make a lot of money. Sometimes companies such as that feel that they can do whatever they want to do. And the government thus far has failed to step in and stop it.
Trinity executives declined our repeated requests for an interview, sending us this response. Trinity has a high degree of confidence in the performance and integrity of the ET Plus system. The false and misleading allegations being made were reviewed by the Federal Highway Administration. The FHWA reaffirmed its acceptance of the ET Plus system in October 2012.
Sure love you guys.
Luke Robinson is grateful. His family survived their crash, but he worries about other families and is calling for the controversial guardrails to be removed from our roadways.
The guardrail is supposed to save lives, not destroy them. That one saves lives, that one destroys lives. Take the wrong ones out, put the right ones in before this happens to another family and another family and another child and destroys more lives.
In preparation for our investigation, we spoke to more than a dozen professors and engineers all across the country, and they all said the same thing, that the way a guardrail head reacts or performs in a crash has to do with the angle a car hits it, the height, the weight, the size of the car, the road conditions, and the way the guardrail was installed and maintained. That said, a National Transportation Safety Board has just launched a massive investigation into guardrail heads across the country, not just Trinity. Problem is, that report isn't due out for at least 3 years. Much more on this on our website right now, WPTV.com. Kelly, Michael?
Shannon, thank you. What an alarming and eye-opening report.
Thank you.